You ever notice how a woman's hug can feel like a message you're supposed to decode, but nobody ever taught you the language? One moment her arms are around you like she's afraid to lose you, and the next, it feels like she's hugging a stranger. And here's the part that keeps most men awake at night. A woman never hugs you just because. There is always a signal, always an emotion, always a truth she's hoping you either feel or fail to notice. Most men look for words. They want her to say what she feels. But women, they communicate through energy, closeness, tension, softness, and intention. And the hug, the simple, everyday hug, is where she reveals the truth she will never speak. A hug tells you what her eyes avoid. A hug tells you what her texts hide. A hug tells you who you are to her and who you are not. When a woman wraps her arms around you, she is scanning something you don't even realize you're broadcasting. Your emotional availability, your confidence, your warmth, your presence, your softness, your edge. She's not thinking this consciously. It's instinct. It's thousands of years of evolutionary psychology firing all at once. You think she's just hugging you, but what she's really doing is feeling your frequency. If her hug lingers longer than normal, she's telling you she craves safety. She wants your presence. She wants to remember what it feels like to be held by someone who grounds her. She wants a moment where her world stops spinning. A lingering hug is her soul whispering, "Don't disappear on me." But if her hug feels rushed, quick, polite, distant, that's her communicating that the emotional door is closing. She's telling you she's not fully open, not fully sure, not fully invested. Women never pull away from a hug without revealing exactly how much of their heart they're protecting. And if she squeezes you tightly, that's vulnerability, that's trust, that's, "I need you more than I can admit out loud." A tight squeeze is a confession disguised as affection. It's a woman giving you access to the emotional part of her she hides from the rest of the world. But here's the twist no one tells you. A woman decides the direction of a relationship long before she says a single word. And a hug is often the first vote she casts in her mind. She evaluates how she feels in your arms. Does she feel safe? Do you feel present? Or do you feel distracted, uncertain, or emotionally unavailable? She can sense it instantly. Women read hugs the way men read faces. They notice everything. And maybe that's the part that hurts you the most. Because sometimes she hugs you differently than she used to. Sometimes her hug feels lighter, weaker, like something's changed, but she'll never admit it. That's because a woman's heart always speaks before her mouth does. Her body language betrays her feelings long before she's ready to tell you the truth. Most men ignore this. You're not supposed to feel these things. You're not supposed to notice. But you do, and you can. And when you finally decode a woman's hug, you stop living confused and start living aware. A hug isn't just a hug, it's her telling you exactly where you stand, if you know how to listen. Now let's talk about the subtle variations most men completely miss. The micro signals hiding in the way she moves her body into yours. The tilt of her head, the placement of her hands, the pressure on your back. All of it matters. Women don't just hug randomly. Every nuance is a breadcrumb leading you straight into her subconscious desires. When she leans her head against your chest, there's something primal happening. That position tells you she feels protected by your energy. She's anchoring herself to you without words, saying, "Here, I feel calm. Here, I feel secure." But notice how long she stays. A fleeting brush? That's politeness. A pause that lasts? That's comfort, desire, even longing, speaking louder than any text could. Then there's hand placement. Pay attention, because this is where the truth often hides in plain sight. A hand resting casually on your shoulder or arm signals ease, familiarity, friendship, but it rarely signals intimacy. A hand tracing down your back or gripping closer to your waist? That's an emotional opening. She's letting her body speak what she can't admit aloud. interest, curiosity, connection, and yes, attraction. The direction of the hug is also revealing. Does she press herself fully against you or just touch lightly? A full-body hug communicates alignment. She's physically syncing with you, unconsciously testing whether your energy matches hers. A half-hearted, angled hug. That's hesitation, doubt, caution. She's testing boundaries and deciding if you're someone safe to invest in. And here's the part most men miss entirely, the pullback test. Women often linger just long enough to see how you react. Do you hold her tighter? Do you let her drift away? This is a psychological litmus test. She's asking silently, do you value this moment? Do you feel my presence as intensely as I feel yours? Your response tells her everything she needs to know about your emotional intelligence, your awareness, your capacity to lead and protect emotionally. The scent of familiarity also plays a role. When she hugs you, she's reading your subtle pheromones, the smell of your cologne, the natural scent that her brain associates with safety and attraction. This biological element is rarely conscious, but it is relentless. Even if she tells herself she's just being friendly, her body knows more than her words ever could. Finally, notice the release, the moment she steps back. Does she look you in the eyes, smile genuinely, or does she avert her gaze, distracted or anxious? Eye contact after a hug confirms emotional resonance. Avoidance signals uncertainty. Men often focus on the embrace itself, but the seconds after, the subtle cues as she detaches, reveal the true emotional weight she carries. That pause, the glance, the half smile, or the breath she takes, that's her truth, spilling through cracks you can learn to read. The takeaway here is simple. A woman's hug is a multi-layered conversation. If you ignore it, you miss her messages. If you watch it closely, you gain insight into her heart, her desires, her unspoken evaluations of you. These moments are gifts, a window into what most men will never understand. You can either stay blind, missing the signals, or you can open your eyes and see what she's really telling you before she even has to speak. Every hug is a test. Every movement, a message. Every touch, an invitation. Your task is to decode it, to feel the layers beneath the surface, and to respond in a way that proves you are not just present, but aware. Here's something most men never realize. The emotional weight of a hug is often heavier than any conversation. Words can lie, actions can be faked, but the way a woman hugs you, that rarely deceives. It's raw, instinctive, and brutally honest. She can't fully control it. Even if she's trying to mask her feelings, her body betrays the truth every single time. When she hugs you unexpectedly, it's a form of testing. She wants to know if you notice the subtle changes in her energy. She wants to see if you respond with presence, patience, and emotional intelligence, or if you just go through the motions. A hug is a mirror, reflecting both her state and yours. If you're tense, distracted, or emotionally absent, she feels it. If you're grounded, confident, and fully there, she feels that too, and her entire body relaxes into you, almost instinctively. Pay attention to the timing and context. A hug after a shared laugh carries one type of emotional charge, light, playful, and bonding. A hug during a serious conversation carries a different weight, anchoring, stabilizing, emotionally revealing. Women instinctively know which hug to use and when. They measure, even unconsciously, how you react, what you offer, and whether you can meet them emotionally in that precise moment. Every hug is calculated on an emotional scale you might not yet understand, but that she feels down to her core. The chest-to-chest connection matters. When her head is on your chest, she's listening to your heartbeat without realizing it. That rhythm is primal. It communicates trust, safety, and emotional alignment. The subconscious mind reads this before the conscious mind does. She's checking whether your energy matches hers, whether your presence is stabilizing, whether you can anchor her emotionally. If you pull away too soon, if you're distracted, if you fail to be fully present, she notices, and she recalibrates. She remembers how it felt, and she adjusts how open she allows herself to be next time. Then there's the subtle squeeze, the brief tightening of her arms around you. That is vulnerability in its purest form. She doesn't do it for everyone. She reserves it for those she either trusts, desires, or evaluates as capable of holding that vulnerability without breaking it. That squeeze is her asking, silently, "Can you handle me? Can you understand this part of me I rarely show?" Your response isn't just noticed, it's catalogued. Over time, these small interactions build her emotional picture of you, determining whether she sees a future, a friend, or just a fleeting moment. Men often ignore these signs because they want explicit validation. They want words. But a woman's words are secondary. Her body communicates first. Her hug is a nonverbal declaration of her interest, her trust, and her emotional state. Ignoring it is like closing your eyes in a room full of flashing lights. You miss the signals entirely. Finally, the release of the hug is just as important as the embrace itself. Does she step back slowly, savoring the lingering connection? Or does she detach abruptly, signaling discomfort or caution? Every detail, the tilt of her head, the lingering touch, the depth of the squeeze, is a message. Learning to read these messages transforms how you understand women, relationships, and emotional connection. It teaches you presence, awareness, and the rare ability to respond to subtle cues that most men overlook entirely. Understanding a woman's hug is not just about decoding her feelings, it's about learning to meet her where she is, emotionally and psychologically. It's about presence, awareness, and empathy, the very qualities that separate ordinary men from the men women truly notice, trust, and desire. Now let's get into the part most men completely miss, the emotional echo that follows a hug. A woman doesn't just release her arms and walk away. Her mind, body, and instincts are still processing. That lingering emotional impression is a message, often more telling than the hug itself. If you can learn to sense it, you'll understand things most men spend years trying to decode unsuccessfully. Notice how she behaves after the hug. Does she stay close, maintaining eye contact, or does she retreat into herself? The first indicates that your presence has grounded her, reassured her, or even sparked desire. The second signals uncertainty, hesitation, or self-protection. Women rarely mislead here. Even if her words suggest otherwise, her lingering energy reveals what she truly feels. This is the part men ignore. They rush to analyze what she says, not what she radiates. The subtle shift in her voice after a hug is another signal. It may rise slightly, drop slightly, or even soften in a way you barely notice. That modulation is her subconscious telling you whether she feels safe, valued, or emotionally connected. It's a tiny, almost invisible thread, but it's as potent as any direct confession. Women have been conditioned to hide vulnerability in words, but their body, their voice, their energy, all of it leaks truth, especially right after contact like a hug. A hug also carries unspoken decisions about the future. A woman evaluates you in seconds, sometimes subconsciously, through this intimate, non-verbal test. She gauges patience, confidence, emotional intelligence, and whether you are capable of holding her emotionally without being asked. A man who misses this is missing the blueprint of what she's seeking. A man who notices it gains insight that can change every interaction that follows. Even the casual gestures around the hug matter. Does she adjust her hair, touch her face, or glance at your reaction? These micro-movements are emotional feedback loops. She's checking if you see, if you notice, if you care enough to read the subtle signs. Most men dismiss these gestures as random, but in reality, they are deliberate subconscious evaluations. The hug doesn't end when the arms part. It echoes in every movement she makes afterward. And here's the truth that cuts deeper than most men are ready for. Her emotional openness during a hug is fragile. One wrong response, pulling away too soon, appearing distracted, failing to meet her energy, can close doors she may never open again. Conversely, one right response, presence, grounding, patience, awareness, can make her heart align with yours in ways that words cannot achieve. Men often underestimate this, thinking a hug is fleeting. In reality, it is a foundation. One embrace, one measured reaction can tip the scales of connection forever. Finally, a hug is her test of emotional bravery. She's watching whether you can handle vulnerability, whether you can anchor her when she exposes herself, even for a brief moment. This is the invisible equation behind every hug. Presence, plus emotional intelligence, plus trust. Every man faces it, but most fail without even realizing the challenge. If you can see it, feel it, and respond with awareness, you ascend into the rare group of men women truly notice, trust, and desire. Every hug is a conversation without words, a mirror reflecting her heart, a silent invitation for you to rise to the moment. Ignore it, and you miss the truth. Notice it, and you gain access to the most intimate, primal, and psychologically charged signals she has to offer. It's a subtle power game, and the winner is always the man who can read and respond without overthinking, without pressure, without hesitation. Now, let's get brutally honest. Most men never fully understand what a hug communicates because they're too busy looking for words. They focus on conversations, texts, and dates, thinking those are the only markers of a woman's feelings. But a hug, real, unguarded, intentional, reveals everything she won't say out loud. It's raw, it's honest, and it's mercilessly revealing if you're willing to pay attention. When she leans in, presses close, or lingers, she's handing you access to an emotional truth she hides from almost everyone. She's saying, without speaking, "This is how I feel when I'm near you." Every nuance, the pressure of her arms, the tilt of her head, the subtle squeeze, is a map of her desires, fears, and trust. You are being tested in microseconds. Are you present enough to notice? Calm enough to anchor? Patient enough to let her reveal herself at her pace? The critical point most men overlook is that this test is continuous. Every hug, no matter how small or casual, is part of a larger emotional equation she's solving in her mind. She's asking herself silently, can I trust him? Can I feel safe? Can he handle my vulnerability without judgment? If you answer yes, through presence, awareness, and emotional alignment, she subconsciously updates her map of who you are. If you answer no, through distraction, impatience, or detachment, she does the opposite. She closes the door just a little, and that distance is almost impossible to fully repair. And here's the part that most men never understand. She is also testing her own feelings. A hug forces her to confront her heart, even for a moment. She feels the pull, the comfort, the desire, and the emotional resonance of your energy. That moment is electric, unspoken, and often terrifying to her because it exposes exactly how vulnerable she is willing to be. She hopes you notice, she hopes you respond correctly, but she is also judging herself.